The Utah Jazz's entire team is falling apart, and there are so many reasons why. The first obvious one is because they traded away their star piece besides Donavan Mitchell, which is Rudy Gobert, probably their second best player to the Minnesota Timberwolves, for basically just a bunch of role players and draft picks. And then that made Donavan Mitchell want to leave the Utah Jazz, and now their star player is not happy with the management for trading away Rudy Gobert and trying to rebuild. And now Donavan Mitchell wants to go to the Heat or Knicks, which is not good for the Utah Jazz because their entire team is just about to be broken. Donovan Mitchell was their star piece. He was probably the best player they had since maybe Karl Malone, but it looks like he might not even play another season with the Utah Jazz because next year we might not even see him in a Jazz jersey because he really, really wants to get out of Utah. And usually when you have a star player at Donovan Mitchell's caliber, they usually have all control over their career, whether they want to go to a new team or sign with a new team. It is their decision. And I feel like Donovan Mitchell will probably switch teams this offseason. So, we have a lot to talk about with Donovan Mitchell, and we are going to talk about teams that he is likely to go to in this video and all the scenarios that could happen with him this offseason. So let's get right into it. Donovan Mitchell has been upset with the Utah Jazz's management for what seems like months now. And it doesn't help that the Utah Jazz have consistently lost in the first and second rounds of the playoffs. I mean, they just lost to a banged-up Dallas Mavericks team in the first round that didn't even have their star player Luka Doncic in the first 3 games of the series, which is just pathetic. And in the aftermath, they lost their star player because he did not want to play with Donovan Mitchell anymore, and they got a bunch of role players who are not going to help them next season. I mean, they got Patrick Beverley, they got Jaden McDaniels, guys from the Timberwolves, but if you look at their roster, those guys are not going to make any noise in the playoffs next year, and I am doubtful that the Utah Jazz will even make the playoffs next year. I mean, there's only 8 teams that can make it. I do think that the Utah Jazz could be a play-in team, though. But let's get into the trade scenarios and all of that, and the teams Donovan Mitchell is likely to go to. The first one is the Miami Heat. Donovan Mitchell's boyhood idol growing up was Dwayne Wade, and I think he wants to represent the Miami Heat because Dwayne Wade and Donovan Mitchell are good friends. And him going to the Miami Heat would be a blockbuster trade that would shake up the NBA. Sure, the Heat would have to give up a lot. They'd probably have to give up Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and maybe Victor Oladipo and a ton of picks. But having Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo on the same team would be a luxury for Miami. The Heat and Jazz have even tried making a trade with Donovan Mitchell a few times already this offseason, and he almost got traded there once, but it has not worked out for him. The other team that he has been rumored to go to is the New York Knicks, which is a team that also almost got a deal done, but they didn't. The key pieces in this trade for the Knicks would probably be RJ Barrett and a bunch of picks, but the New York Knicks have lost a lot of their picks already in the past because of a lot of trades they have made. So the New York Knicks don't seem like a likely team to get Donovan Mitchell, but if they were to give up a bunch of their role players and RJ Barrett, I think they would be fine. And if they gave up Mitchell Robinson or something as well in that deal, I think that would be enough to send Donovan Mitchell to the New York Knicks, the biggest market in the NBA. The Utah Jazz point guard's frustration has been building for a while now, like I said earlier in the video. But the scenario that if he does not change teams this offseason, here's the scenario I could see playing out. Donavan Mitchell becomes really unhappy and decides not to play for the Utah Jazz, holding out for a trade, and then will probably get traded around the trade deadline next season. The second scenario is that if he gets traded to the Heat before the offseason ends or in the regular season next season, the Miami Heat will instantly become a mega contender and a super team and will win the championship next season. And then the last scenario is that if he goes to the New York Knicks, not much will change for the Knicks besides their winning percentage. I mean, the team will be surrounded by a bunch of role players in Donovan Mitchell, and I think that they might be able to be a play-in team or a playoff team, but maybe like a 6 or 7 seed, I would guess, with Julius Randle too. But I think that the Miami Heat would be a much better destination for Donovan to be on a contender, which is something every NBA player wants to do. Win the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Salt Lake City is one of the smallest markets in the NBA, which does not really help their future considering not a lot of free agents want to sign there, and also that they just gave away their best players and are about to do the same with Donovan Mitchell this offseason or next season. But hey, that's okay because every team has to rebuild at some point, even a team like the Utah Jazz who have made the playoffs consecutively for the last 6 seasons, because that is just how the NBA rolls. Teams become really good and then rebuild in what seems like the blink of an eye. I do wish the best for the Utah Jazz though. They were one of my favorite teams to watch in the late 2010s and early 2020s because of their play style and their coach Quinn Snyder making some remarkable plays. But Quinn Snyder has also resigned as head coach, which is a thing I forgot to mention in the making of this video. And it all seems like this is going to be very, very bad for the Utah Jazz, which I cannot preface enough. The Utah Jazz are done. Absolutely done. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Click subscribe, turn the notifications on, like, share, comment, all the good stuff. And as always, I'm your boy Hyper Hooper Basketball, and we're out.